In this video, we'll be going over the first part of the Objects and Array exercise, which covers questions on the people array. I'll be writing the solutions in the Chrome console, so I'll define the people array inside the console. Now the first thing we want to do is use a loop to iterate through this array and console.log all of the people. I could use a while loop or a do-while loop, but I'll use the more common for loop. I'm going to start by initializing a counter variable called I and set it equal to 0. I'm then going to specify how long I want to keep looping, and I'll keep looping as long as I is less than the length of the array. Finally, I'm going to decide what I should do to the variable I at the end of each iteration. Since I want the value of I to increase by 1 after each iteration, I'll write I++, which will increment I by 1. Notice that I'm separating each portion of my for loop with a semicolon except for the last portion. Inside of this loop, I'll console.log each person at the index of I. For the next question, I need to write a command to remove Greg from the array. To remove items at the beginning of the array, I use the shift method. So I'll call people.shift, and this will return the last item in the array. Now, if I look at the people variable, I see Greg is removed. For the next question, I need to write a command to remove James from the array. To remove items at the end of the array, I use the pop method. So I'll call people.pop, and this will return the last item in the array. Now, if I look at the people variable, I see James is removed. For the next question, I need to write a command to add Matt to the front of the array. To add items at the beginning of the array, I use the unshift method. So I'll call people.unshift and pass in the string Matt to this function. This will return the length of the array with the new string added. Now, if I look at the people variable, I see Matt is there. For the next question, I need to write a command to add my name to the end of the array. To add items at the end of an array, I use the push method. So I'll call people.push and pass in the string Ellie to this function. This will return the length of the array with the new string added. Now, if I look at the people variable, I see Ellie is there. For the next question, I need to iterate through this array, and after console.logging Mary, exit from the loop. I'm going to show a solution using the break keyword. Remember that the break keyword exits us from a loop. And since we know that Mary is the second value in the array, let's loop as long as the value of I is not greater than 1. And if it is, let's make sure we break out of the loop. I'm going to start a for loop just like before, and loop as long as I is less than the length of the array, and increment I by 1 after each iteration. Inside the loop, I'll write a condition that checks to see if the value of I is greater than 1. And if it is, break out of the loop. We don't need an else statement here, so we can just console.log the value of array at index I. This one might be a bit tricky, so if you didn't get it, try it again. For the next question, I need to write the command to make a copy of the array using slice, but this copy should not include Mary, who is now the second value in the array. So I'll call people.slice, but start at index 2 and go until the end of the array, so I don't need a second parameter. Now I have a new copy. For the next question, we need to figure out at what index the string Mary is located. Let's use the indexOf method to do this. Remember, indexOf returns the index in the array that a value is located, and if the value does not exist, it always returns -1. So let's call people.indexOf the string Mary, and it should return the index at which Mary is at, which is 1. Remember, arrays are 0 indexed, so the first item in the array is at index 0. For the next question, we need to do the same, but with the string foo. Since we know the string foo is not in the array, we expect this to return -1. So let's call people.indexOf the string foo, and we see it's -1. For the next question, we need to redefine the people variable with the value we started with. So let's do that now. Now we need to use splice to remove Devin from the array and add Elizabeth and Artie. So let's quickly review splice. The first parameter is what we call the start. So what index do we want to start at? Well, if we want to remove Devin, we want to start at index 2, because 0 is where Greg is at, 1 is where Mary is at, and 2 is where Devin is. The next parameter to splice is called the delete count. So how many items do we want to remove from the array? Well, just 1. Finally, the last parameters are values we want to add separated by a comma. So let's add the strings Elizabeth and Artie. And we should see after calling this that our array has Greg, Mary, Elizabeth, Artie, and James. For the last question, I need to use the concat method to add the string Bob to the people array. So I'll declare a variable called withBob, and use the concat method on the people array and pass in the string Bob. If I look at the with Bob variable now, I can see that the string Bob has been added to the end of the array. In the next video, we'll go over solutions to the questions on objects. See you there.